This is another edition of Tecumseh Talks. I'm your host, Grant Joy, and I'm joined with ardent supporters of Shawnee, Ohio, and the Tecumseh Theater, George Biggs and his wife, Linda Biggs. George, newly elected to the Village Council and former owner of the Double R Bar. We are also graciously joined by wife, Linda. I kind of know how you're connected to the theater, but talk about your first experiences in the theater, maybe some memories that come to mind.
In 1989, George Biggs brought my family down here from Columbus for Thanksgiving, and he was showing us part of this building. Well, that door over there where the books are, and all this, the floors were dirt. Nothing but dirt. Even out where the Double R Bar is, all looked like a old western town. He brought us down there in '89, and we never went back to Columbus.
Fell in love.
Yeah. What about yourself, George? What was your first experience?
My first experience with the theater, 1985, when I purchased Double R Bar, and it was a night or two prior to actually opening the bar after the purchase. I was in there getting ready for the opening day, and I had the front door propped open, and a gentleman stuck his head in, introduced himself as Skip Ricketts. And I had recently read an article in the Columbus Dispatch about the Tecumseh Theater, and the name Skip Ricketts was in that article. And I asked the gentleman, I said, "Are you the Skip Ricketts that has something to do with the theater across the street?" And he said, "Yes." And I asked him if it would be too much of me to ask him to bring me in the building sometime. And he said, "No, of course not." He asked me if I had a piece of paper and a pen to write, and I assumed he was going to give me a phone number to contact him. And ended up, he gave me the combination to the locked building and said, "You go in anytime you want." And I still remember the combination to this day, 9/15/25. And that lock probably hasn't been on this building for 20 years. But when I'd come down from Columbus, I'd walk Main Street and peeking in the windows, wishing I could get in to see them. And now when I see strangers in town that are walking up down Main Street, peeking in the windows, I take every opportunity that I can to bring them theater building off our diamond in the rough. When Skip did that and gave me the combination to that made my day. That's an experience I will never forget. I've known John Winenberg and Sandy and the whole crew. Have tried to work with them as much as I can to help do whatever I could possibly do to keep the lights on. But like Linda said, when we first came in this building, there was nothing here. This ground floor was, and it's amazing that I've talked to several local residents that had never been in this building and have lived here all their lives. I've had the pleasure of taking a few of them on a tour, and they're amazed. I've also had the pleasure of taking numerous groups of OU students that come to town for history luncheon, whatever it may be, and that's always been an enjoyable experience. Not necessarily giving them a history lesson, describing our history in such a way that they can enjoy the experience as well. Try to make them have fun while they're in here, not just a history lesson. I always enjoy that.
Totally. It's interesting. I have two things. When I first came to Shawnee back in September, the first thing John did was give me keys to, it seemed like, the whole town.
Yeah.
It's not just like, you know how there's the key to the town, but in Shawnee there's keys to the town.
Yeah.
So kind of have a similar experience with that.
See all these bottles over here on the wall?
Yeah.
First time I saw those bottles was up on the 3rd floor, and half those bottles still had their pills in them.
Pills or
It
chemicals.
was so amazing to see those bottles being brought down here. I know they had to empty them, get rid of all the stuff that was inside it, but those were all up on the 3rd floor.
I was always afraid to approach or touch them in fear that they may explode.
Yeah.
But someone had the guts to grab a hold of them, clean them out, and bring them down here for display.
Yeah.
The majority of them out of the Blair drugstore, which was across the street. It's where most of this came from.
Yeah. And I think the thing that's really cool, and you guys have kind of touched on this, is the idea that the theater is sort of an invitation to a tangible historical experience. You can feel it taste it, smell the history, and it's a way to really immerse folks into the history of the building, but also of the town and of the region too.
It's just amazing to know what this looked like in '89, and then to see it the way it is today. It's changed so much. It's beautiful. I love this building.
I think Skip said, if I remember right, when they purchased, he had said that when they opened the building, the first floor, the wood was all gnarled, kind of clear up to the ceiling. Just to see what it looks like now, it's
If you would kind of go up and look at what the third floor looks like,
yeah.
It's kind of like the way this was, but with
the
the
third
dirt
floor
floor.
right now is in immaculate shape.
Yeah,
This was really falling apart back then.
At one point in time, this side of the building especially, you could visually see the brick pilasters underneath floor joist here with boards across them, a little walkway. That was all was in here. Nothing in here. And to see what it is today, it's been a long, hard process for the original theater group, and then of course Sunday Creek Associates taking over and taking lead on the restoration of the building, and I commend them for everything they've done. I know how hard they've worked. I know the blood, sweat, and tears, and knowing that this building for years was supported by little ice cream socials or selling baked goods.
Basketball tournaments, you name it.
Yeah, exactly. Anything they could do to raise a little bit of money but they were able to raise enough money to more or less mothball the building so that it could be, at some point in time, worked on and brought to the state that it's in. But they've done a wonderful job.
I did have a few other questions. Both of you, do you have a favorite memory or experience? Maybe there's something about the building that you really admire, anything that you'd like to share?
I love the upstairs where you can walk up there and see the stage, see the balcony, and see the pictures that are up there. Hattie Lamar is one of them. Shirley Temple is the other. And I can't wait to see that second floor finished. I think that would be so amazing. People up there, that'd be great.
The thing that strikes me the most of this building is I've been going up those steps to the second floor for 35 years. At the top of the steps, you have the ticket window that is labeled 35 cents a couple that is still in place. But to this day, after 35 years, I get to the top of those steps and I make that left-hand turn to go into the stage area. And I still go, wow.
It's just so amazing up there.
It is. It's a tangible link, and I think, and it's a time capsule all its own.
Yeah.
It is.
You know that I think it's up on the stage is still a few props that they used a long time ago. And they're amazing up there.
Yeah,
The basketball or dancing sign is still sitting up there too.
It
I
is.
had one fella, he was an OU student on one of the tours, and he pointed to that sign you speak of, and he said, well, I've never seen a dancing basketball. I said, okay, you got me on that one.
And there was one time, there was a group of people. One of them I worked with, and he was a singer. And they did a music video.
Actually, the video was entirely done on the second and third floor. There was none of the video on the main floor. 10 hours of the same song over and over to make a 4-minute video, but it turned out amazing.
It was. It was really a great experience seeing a video shot up there, and it's still on YouTube.
Yeah, it's still on YouTube. The name of the group was Cross Solder, Solder. The name of the song is Lunatic Fringe by Red Ryder. It's a 1980s something song. I'm old, but I enjoyed that song. Repetition, but
Yeah.
the video turned out fantastic.
And the thing was, shortly after they made that video,
Yeah, it was pretty interesting to see a drone flying around upstairs, and 95% of the video was shot with the drone.
Care to share what the theater means to you, but also having such a lifelong connection to Shawnee, what the theater means to the village?
I have always personally felt that the theater building is the cornerstone of Shawnee. At some point in time, the theater will be a reason for folks to come from out of town to this building. I've always felt that we could leapfrog off of what can be accomplished in this building to better the rest of the village. In Shawnee's heyday, Shawnee was considered the capital of entertainment for the entire Hocking Valley coal region. People came here for their entertainment, not only because of this building, but other buildings, Opera House and the auditorium that was above the bank. With Shawnee's population around 4,500 folks, and people came from everywhere to Shawnee for their entertainment. And hopefully someday it'll be back.
Yeah, it was a Saturday night thing to do.
Anytime my mother was born and raised in Hemlock, just a couple miles up the road here, and anytime that we would drive by, Mom would always point to the theater and say, "That's where I got my first candy apple." No matter how many times we drove by, she's pointing and telling me that. But when I was a youngster and we'd come down from Columbus, my folks would pull up in front of the Double R bar at the time, and I'd jump out with a handful of quarters and be going up and down Main Street to the old lady, Bill's Lunch, the little restaurant across the street, just running wild, but I had a pocket full of quarters.
Linda, what about yourself?
There's a lot of people to town. A lot of amazing people have come here. Watching Chris Logston play and some of the other groups that have been here. It's been nice seeing a lot of cars out front just to come into the theater. And that's been really good for the town.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, just to kind of echo what you guys are saying, and I think what you've touched on, this theater and this building and this town was the cultural capital of the Hocking Valley. And I think it can get to that point again, most definitely.
Definitely.
The village and the landscape surrounding it, I think this town has a lot going for it and a lot of potential.
Growing up in Canna and Columbus, I never knew there was such a place like this. And it is so quiet and peaceful down here. This is something people in Columbus will never get to see unless they either come down.
For Shawnee to be smack dab in the middle of Wayne National Forest, the opportunities there are just, and I've always professed that you take Shawnee as your center point and draw a 50-mile radius around Shawnee and look at what population there is that could come to Shawnee within an hour's drive. A lot of folks.
I just think, just in my short time being here, by the nature of the town, you attract a swath of different people. It's not just folks that love the outdoors and want the outdoor recreational experience. It's folks that have a love of history that come through, or a love of architecture. And obviously with your all's involvement with Destination Shawnee and the cultural arts entertainment that goes in. And here that brings a whole different crowd as well. And so you really have a place where a wide swath of people can come together, and especially I think the Tecumseh, one of its cool things that I notice is that it tends to be a unifier and brings people together. And you kind of called it the community keystone, a cornerstone, I should say. And I agree with you on that point, in that it acts as the community focal point, and really I think it kind of links all of us together. We all have that shared experience. And that passion too, which is really neat.
It's really cool.
It's a great venue. Local folks rent space out for wedding receptions, parties, whatever, baby showers. But then we also have some music events that will bring the locals as well as out-of-towners events.
You get somebody like Chris to come in here, and this place gets packed. Or Sweet Misery, they pack this place. That brings a lot of all their following from all the different places they've been. Those people can come down here and then see what we have. and it's different.
At the present time, the space being limited for those types of events, once we can get upstairs and you stage the actual stage and the balcony for seating and the main floor for seating, that's a whole different ball game.
Oh yeah. Then you could, well, still, I'd like to see Chris Logston up on that big stage. And
But we
he's awesome.
he's a personal friend, so
Sure.
but and we love him to death, and he's a great entertainer as well as musician. And,
He's a huge advocate for Shawnee too.
he loves
Yeah.
Shawnee.
Oh,
I
he
brought him
loves
down
us.
here in 1985, and he comes back to Shawnee. He actually refers to Shawnee as his second home. He fell in love with Shawnee when I brought him down here,
Yeah.
and he just keeps coming back. And he always comes back to help us out financially as far as raising some funds for the theater, for Destination Shawnee. Any time that he has an opportunity, he's here to help. And we've had a lot of other musicians
Oh
as
yeah,
well
a lot of different
that have
ones.
helped. Well, not only Chris, but a lot of other musicians.
There's sort of an aura kind of when you walk into that. I think it's maybe not present, but you can kind of you get a different feeling. I think it's something that you've got to experience, and you've got to walk in here, crossing the threshold to the second or third.
I think it takes a person that enjoys history, enjoys and appreciates architecture. If you don't enjoy those things, this probably wouldn't mean a thing to you. But if you enjoy history and you enjoy architecture and you enjoy the Wayne National Forest, this is the place to be.
It's really great to see almost once a week at least, seeing somebody out there taking pictures of the buildings. Somebody is really interested.
Now, we've seen car tags, New York, saw
Yeah.
Alaska tags out here on Main Street one day. I mean, just all over the United States come through here taking photos. Pretty amazing.
A couple months ago, this was pre-COVID, obviously, but there was a couple from Chile. They were professors at a Catholic university in Chile, and they just stopped in Shawnee on a whim. They were all headed to Nelsonville for a frozen food conference of all things. But they were really drawn to the town and to the architecture. And I'm just, man, what other town of the size of Shawnee in Ohio that are you just going to get, people from all over coming and checking it out and, taking photos and wanting to learn more about the town. So that's really cool. And then I guess my last question, just to sort of wrap this up, what you would like to see it become or continue to evolve toward.
My dream at the present time is to see an elevator shaft on the side of this building to make the second and third floors accessible. The second floor finished with a renovation, live entertainment on the second floor. The building being used for what it was intended for when it was built. I hope to see that in my lifetime. I can't wait to see the day.
For me, when I first walked into this town, it looked like an old Western town. Both ends had this old look to them. It really looked like a bunch of horses should be running up and down. The cowboys, yeah. Kind of like Roscoe Village. To see these shops out here opened, full of life, bring the town back to what it used to look like.
I think we're closer to accomplishing just that now than we ever have been.
Double R had a porch on it. And every building down through here, George and I would look in the windows just to look at the history that was really inside those buildings. So amazing to see a lot of the older bottles in some of the windows, bricks that were actually made from Shawnee. We've been redoing our house, and it had lath that said Shawnee on it.
Yeah.
Just stenciled right into the walls. It was amazing.
I really appreciate you guys taking some time out of your day to reminisce and provide some fond memories and express your vision for the future. I know it means a lot to me that you guys would take some time, and it was great. So
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
All right.
Thank you.